Hi everyone, I'm Mark and I have two very good laptops in this video, the XPS 15 and the XPS 17. I've always wondered which of these two would be better, and if you're wondering the same thing, then keep watching the video. For disclosure, both of these laptops were provided by Dell for review. When I'm done with the review, they go back to Dell. Let's start with the hardware. They're actually very similar, with overall the XPS 17 just bigger and heavier than the XPS 15. Dell did a great job designing these thanks to the thin bezels. They're both relatively smaller than the competition. For example, a 17-inch laptop sounds intimidating, but I was surprised it fits in my backpack. On the other hand, the XPS 17 is noticeably heavier than the XPS 15. It's not really a problem if you're driving to and from work, but I can imagine it would bother some people if you need to walk or stand with your backpack for long periods of time, especially if you're carrying other things. In my past job as a producer and shooter, going to tech events like CES, IFA, or Mobile World Congress, I would also be carrying my camera, tripod, and other accessories. I would prefer to bring the XPS 15 over the XPS 17 because of the weight. When it comes to monitor, the size matters a lot. If you have a bigger external monitor at your office, then you can go with the XPS 15. But if there's no external monitor, the extra screen size is really useful on the XPS 17. If I'm going to a coffee shop or a co-working space that don't offer external monitors, then I would bring the XPS 17. The XPS 15 model I have for testing has the 3.5K OLED option, and it is beautiful. The XPS 17 has a UHD Plus IPS display, and while it looks great, I prefer the colors and contrast on the XPS 15 a bit more. One thing to note though is that I noticed the XPS 17 is a bit brighter. They both have lower resolution options as well if you would like more battery life, but if you're a content creator, go with the higher resolution option, you won't regret it. There are differences in the port selection between the XPS 15 and XPS 17. First, the XPS 15 has 3 USB-C ports, while the XPS 17 has 4. Also, all 4 of the XPS 17 USB-C ports support Thunderbolt 4 as compared to just 2 on the XPS 15. Both devices also include a headphone jack and a full-size SD card slot. Talking about performance, you can configure the XPS 17 with up to an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4080, but the XPS 15 maxes out at an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4070. For the sake of comparison, both of these machines have the RTX 4070, with the XPS 15 running at 40 watts and the XPS 17 at 60 watts. They both have the 13th gen Intel Core i7H and 32 gigs of RAM, and when I run Adobe Premiere Pro and edit 10-bit 422 log videos from my Sony camera, I sometimes notice frames dropping on the XPS 15. Now keep in mind that's a video codec that's very demanding, but if you don't want to worry about running into that issue no matter what camera you are using, then go with the more powerful XPS 17. For battery life, I say about 10 hours on the XPS 15 with my usage, which is really good. I've been reviewing gaming laptops recently and have noticed around 5 to 6 hours, so seeing double on the XPS 15 is very refreshing. The XPS 17 has a bigger display and higher resolution, so I assumed it would have a lower battery life, and I was right. It gets about 9 hours, which I think is still pretty great. I tend to bring my power adapter with me everywhere I go, and they both use the same USB-C charger, so not too big or heavy to carry around. One disappointing thing that both these laptops have is a terrible webcam. Most new laptops already have 1080p cameras. These XPS laptops still have 720p. If you do a lot of video calls and would need to look good or look more professional on these calls, I'd suggest connecting a better external webcam or even connect your DSLR. So let's talk pricing. Depending on configuration, the XPS 17 sells for about $300 to $400 more than the XPS 15 with similar specs. That's not insignificant. However, you get a bigger display, more GPU power, and one more Thunderbolt 4 port. Personally, I would go with the XPS 17, but let me know what you end up going with. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section below. I'm Mark. Thanks for watching.